Okay, find a good seat and support yourself because I got a little story to tell you. As we're starting into a new series, I'm calling it something like The Power of Love or Fearless Joy or something like that, yet to be determined. But our main character informing us right now is the goddess Durga, the Maha Devi. Maha means great, and Devi is goddess. And her story is quite complex. So I'll try to give you a really succinct Durga style iteration of how Durga herself came into being. And just know that you are all characters in the story, that we can expand the myth into our modern day experience. I think we have another great character in the story, Mahisha, the demon, and you might find that demon who shapeshifts into all forms. But one of his favorite is a really just egotistical, run amok, suck the life out of everything bull. And we have one in our current modern day narrative right now. And you might actually relate to that part of you that's inside yourself, maybe the critical voice or the part of you that self-sabotages your joy in multiple ways. But anyhow, so once upon a time, a long time ago, there was this great practitioner of yoga. And this great practitioner of yoga had one focus. And our ancient yogis knew that practicing yoga, more than just the physical practice that we know in our modern day time, was about a way to purify and cleanse and open up and become a purified vessel, to hold more and more and more power. Well, this particular practitioner only wanted one thing. He wanted to amass power solely for the attainment of power itself, kind of the love of power. And so this character is Mahisha, and he does often take the form of a great mighty bull. And he came to his practices and he was so austere, and he just wanted to be able to do this and do that and hold the power and do this and all the amazing acts and feats. So it's very ego driven. And he amassed so much power that one day Brahma himself had to come and stand before him and go, wow, what is it? Because the gods will grant the boons if you show up with consistency and if you ask with all your intention. And so he said, I want one thing and one thing only. I want to be immortal. I want to be invincible. And Brahma just kind of scratched his head and he's like, well, I can grant that to a certain extent, but as you know, all things that come into creation must eventually meet their demise. And so I'll tell you this, I'll give you a choice. You can choose what is going to, or who will bring you to that completion point. And because, you eventually will have to face that fact. And so Mahisha, being full of himself, and he just said, oh, well, that choice is so easy. Let that person be a woman. No woman would ever be able to defeat me. And as we all know, this is just a crock of bull, right? I mean, the power of the feminine is so great. The power of the Shakti that streams through is so beautiful. And Mahisha was just completely unaware, so out in his fullness of self that he could never imagine something so tender and so loving and so soft and so fluid that would be able to tame him. And so he accepts the deal. And from there, he gets to go on around and just kick up dust like bulls like to do, and just make a big fuss about everything and just suck the life out of all things that come into his orbit. And pretty soon, it's true, the great fire, the light of all that is just starts to dim, and the moonlight itself just starts to kind of suck into itself. And so this story is not unlike a lot of the stories we've heard, where the demon who is only just looking for one thing and one thing only, which is usually to create challenge and trouble, because they just want to keep amassing more and more and more. And then so the one thing that does change in all the stories is how the gods and goddesses get together and they make a plot and they make a plan. And so here we have Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. They all come together, taking a stand for all of creation, everything that is about sustainment, and then also recognizing that everything must come to an end. And so they gather in a circle and they take the practice of yoking their power, which we have learned to call yoga. And they yoke their power together and they shine this beautiful light into the center of the circle. And as they're doing that, all the gods and goddesses, AKA you, the practitioner, also start to show up and practice yoga. And you pour your heart into the practices with such love and such like recognition of we're opening up to the divine essence of all that we are. And this is such like the reason we practice is to remember joy. And they start pulling this energy into the circle. And then all of a sudden, out of the circle rises up this great, beautiful, luminous light. And it's Durga herself. And her toes are made of sunlight. Her feet are made of the creation energy. Her legs are made of the earth, and her hips are made of the water. Her waistline, the thunderbolt, her breasts, the beautiful moonlight, her face itself made from Shiva and his ability to hold steadiness. Her arms, all of her 10,000 of arms are made from the sustaining energy. And even her fingers are made from the river Ganges, the children of creativity. And even her eyes are filled with the light of Agni. And she's rising in such luminosity that even the gods and goddesses are a little like, wow, this is the Mahadevi, like so much beauty. And then they step in one at a time and they begin to gift her their superpower, their weapon, if you will. And so from Shiva, she has a replica of Shiva's trident. From Vishnu, she's got the discus. From let's see, who was else in the story? From Vishnu, she's got the pot of water, and it's like filled with the mantra and the seeds of creation. She's gifted a beautiful conch from Varuna, the god of water. And in that, being able to blow the conch, she brings the universe into creation with the sound of Om. So all things are coming together. And even some of the goddesses that you know, Saraswati, offers her all of her intuitive insight and grounded wisdom. And Lakshmi, the power of love. And Kali, the ability to release and let go of that which is not serving and standing in the way of just knowing how to live from pure delight. And so it goes that this goddess, Durga, this Mahadevi, is literally a creation of all things that have already been created. And so if we can take that and honor that and how it lives within us, what a beautiful thing to recognize. And as she has come into herself here, the world starts to come back into life. It starts to spring forth again. It starts to shine with delight yet again. And now Mahisha is pissed. He's like, who dares mess up my control? I like it when people are living in fear. I like it when people are complacent. I like it when I can just stomp around and muck things up and argue and exert my might. That just feels so like, that's good. Who dare? And so he sends his armies to figure it out. And one by one, each of these thousands of men, these armies, these beautifully massed armies, they start to soften to her maternal love. They start to soften to the way she can wrap delight and sweetness. And pretty soon Mahisha has to go himself. If you want something done, you've got to do it yourself. And so he shows up, and now the great battle begins. And Durga's just sitting there, and she's just kind of poised, and she's just like, well, this will be interesting. And so every form that Mahisha takes, she also shapeshifts. And every time he tries to pin her down, she expands and opens up to even more of the love that lives within. And as things are kind of going back and forth, she's like kind of like a cat playing with a mouse, if you know what I mean. It's just fun. And pretty soon, though, she does get tired of it. She's like, okay, enough's enough. And that's Durga. She's the maternal part of you that says, no, we're actually going to get down to business now. Enough play. And so she waits for that moment when Mahisha is about to shapeshift into another form, when he is most vulnerable. And in that moment, she comes to him and she takes the most vulnerable part of herself, her soft underside of her foot, and she places it on his neck. And simply with the most tender part of herself, she catches him in this moment. And all he can do is look up at her and utter the word Ma. And in that moment, he has surrendered, and everything in the world comes back to its beautiful luminosity. And it's done with such tenderness. And I know that even at some point in that story, Durga just sat back and gave herself a manicure. She was like, go about your business. I'll wait for you. So we are all characters in the story. And as we take on the practice of Durga, I want to invite you to a place where we've been through a big epic journey. We've played with a lot of characters in the story who have offered Durga powers that we have stepped into ourselves. And as I was crafting the why, the big why behind this particular journey that we're going to take, I thought, you know what? I really want to focus on what does it take to protect joy in my life. Take a block out in front. Come up to the balls of your feet and a nice squat. Now, if you've already said, I hate crow pose, I'm not doing crow pose, love that part of you and see if you can do a variation of crow pose. Place your hands out in front, squeeze the wrists in like you were trying to twist a lid off a jar. Squeeze the wrists in, but because the hands are on the mat, they won't really move. Lift the hips like you do in Chaturanga. Press the heart way out over that block, and you'll be on your toe tips. Now squeeze the knees in, elbows in, heart forward. Breathe. And very softly lift that 1 foot at a time. Now squeeze that knee even more. Squeeze the other knee even more to the midline so that you could lift the other foot. Maybe or maybe not, it doesn't matter. And here's your crow pose. Breathe it. And set it down. And have a seat. Pull right leg into left. Janu Shirshasana. Come on to fingertips. If you're using a blanket, you'll sit on your blanket if your lower back needs some height. Press through your extended leg heel and flare your toes, keeping the back of the knee light. And we'll find fingertips here. Bow in and forward. There's a midline between the sole of or the toes of your bent leg foot and your straight leg inner thigh. Squeeze the inner thigh towards the toes and the knee of your bent leg towards your wrists. Beautiful. Inhale, rise up. Catch the straight leg knee. Pull it in. Now follow me here. Take a flex foot with the leg that was bent, and dip the knee into that. Squeeze those parts of you together. Hug the midline between sole of foot and knee, and then turn towards your right leg side and bow in. The variation of Brigitte's cross. Keep pressing the back knee, your left knee, into the sole of your front foot. Stabilize with your right hand and reach that left hand further forward. Don't let go of that midline between knee and foot. Breathe. One arm's in Chaturanga, the other arm's in Downward Dog. Inhale, keep the legs strong as you rise up. Good. Sweep it around. We'll stretch right leg out, left leg in. I'm loving this new big mat. This is great. Pick up your hips, set them down. Fine tune your pose. So that's important. Anusara yogis know that. We just take a moment and we go, oh, I'm going to expand here and root here and breathe here. And then I'm ready. Bow in. Hug the inner thigh towards the bent leg toes and vice versa. Hug that bent leg knee towards your wrists. Beautiful. Find a joyful breath and let that joyful breath lift you up. Bend the straight leg. Connect the dots. Heel to sole. Namaste. Thank you, thank you, thank you.